From the rolling mountains to the flatlands, we sing, no one can take our rights. Our Second Amendment will defend our land. With every bullet we stand. We were born in the USA, land of the free, with guns in our hands. We'll forever be Southern blood runs deep through our veins. We'll stand tall for America till the end of our days.
Well, hey there. I'm Sully, and as always, welcome into the Gun Club. You know, I try not to get overly political on this channel, but let's face it, guns, laws, politics, they all intertwine at some level. But today, we're going to talk a little bit about a politician who did something right. I know it can happen. I've covered several incidents on this channel. You can look back to the Dadeville, Alabama Sweet 16 shooting, where 4 or 5 people went and shot up a Sweet 16 party. All of them under 21. A couple of them under 18. You can look at the tragic shooting in Baltimore, Maryland in July of 2023 at a block party. A nice 4th of July block party ended with young lives snuffed out by random, stupid firearm violence. We've covered a lot of these shooting events, these mass shooting events, if we'll call them that. And they seem to track back, and I often say, I want you to look at the perpetrators or the suspects or the people convicted of it. These are not your typical GOA or FPC or NRA members. No. They're young people doing stupid things. Sometimes it's a gang initiation. Sometimes it's a street beef that when I was growing up would have ended up with, as my father used to say, fisticuffs. It would have ended up with a black eye or a bloody nose or maybe a broken bone or two, but not bullet holes. But nowadays we seem to have these young people who want to settle everything with a pistol at the barrel of a 9 or at the barrel of a 38. But you know what? It is what it is, and it has to be addressed. You heard a few months back Judge Jeanine Pirro talking about the crime crackdown in D.C. when they talked about these kids, 16, 15, 14, committing these crimes, don't even get to her desk because they go into some juvenile file where we end up sending them to an anger management class or a midnight basketball tournament or something fun like that after they've killed somebody. It doesn't work. It's been proven not to work. What happens? You know what? The 14-year-old sees the 15 and 16-year-old get away with it. Before you know it, he's getting a gun. Now, we can try all the gun laws in the world. There's already laws against 15 and 16-year-olds carrying guns, if you didn't know. And there's already background checks for any time you buy anything from an NCIC dealer, from a licensed FFL. There's already a background check. These kids are getting them from their big brothers. They're getting them in the street. They're getting them all over the place. And there's not a law we can put in to tell the 17-year-old that he can't sell the 15 and 14-year-old guns. Because 17-year-old's not supposed to be selling guns to begin with. We will never address this problem with that, just like we won't address it with midnight basketball. How can we address it? Well, like I said, I've thrown out blue cities, and I am more than happy to call out failed programs in, New York, failed programs in Memphis. Hell, Memphis from 2022 to 2023 went from 38 homicides per 100,000 to 51.3 per 100,000. That's a shooting gallery. It's a literal murder range. How is it happening? if we can identify, again, I love people on the left, the blue, no matter who, the Democrats want to always say, we need to address the root causes. The root causes are 15 and 16-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 13-year-olds carrying guns, thinking that this is acceptable. We need to address it before it gets to the point of a murder. The kid who pulls an armed robbery with a knife today uses that money to go buy a gun because he needs to get his glicky. Yeah, I said it. We are watching these kids going out and doing dumber and dumber things with loaded weapons on a regular basis. And it's getting ridiculous. We're seeing murders, many, many cities, way up. Part of it is criminal justice reform. You look at New York has, raised the age laws. So you have to be older and older to get charged with a crime and get serious time. Imagine if the 14 and 15-year-old, instead of seeing the 16-year-old get midnight basketball after pulling a gun and shooting up a party, imagine if the 14 and 15-year-old heard from the 16-year-old that he is in a detention facility and he's going to be kept there for many years, and the food sucks, and the living conditions suck, and perhaps he was even required to complete GED classes. And they tell him, look, you're going to be here till at least your 18th birthday, and if you haven't finished your GED, we may transfer you to the adult system. If these kids saw consequences for their actions, maybe, just maybe, they'd think I don't want to be where he's at. I don't want to go out here and try to rob some guy for his car and end up killing him, or some woman killing her. I want to fix this problem. I don't want to be part of that. Maybe if the joining these gangs and these gang initiations to go shoot up the block party, maybe if the people who did that went back and told their story and said, yeah, I got picked up and I went someplace really bad, and they're going to keep me here for a long time. And my future and my life and whatever I wanted to do, whether I wanted to work at the local market or go out and design a computer game or go out and help the community or do whatever or become a preacher or a pastor or whatever, that's kind of been derailed because I'm going to be a guest of the state correctional system for quite some time. Well, can it work? Again, we can look at crime rates, we can look at ongoing crime rates, we can look at all sorts of craziness. But one thing they have not really looked at, except in some places, is trying to get rid of the problem, trying to address the problem per se. And when I say addressing the problem per se, I want to take a look at Baltimore, Charm City, if you will. Now, Baltimore is a really interesting city. We had covered at least one shooting there that had been pretty bad. And we can look at Baltimore's murder rate, and let's see what it's done over the years. Because honestly, when you look at what's going on with Baltimore, it's honestly a great example for how we can fix a lot of other cities. Yeah, that's right. I think cities need to take a look at what Baltimore is doing, or what's being done, I should say, in Baltimore. Now, in 2014, the mayor was a young lady by the name of Stephanie Rawlings Blake, and the DA was a gentleman named Greg Bernstein. They had a murder rate of 33.8 per 100,000, or 211 dead people. Real bodies. Well, that DA changed in 2015. Now, I want you to think back. August of 14 was when Michael Brown was shot in Ferguson by police officer Darren Wilson. A shooting that was ruled multiple times totally legit, totally justified. Well, in 2015, the city elected a lady by the name of Marilyn Mosby to become the prosecutor. In April of 2015, Freddie Gray died in Baltimore. Freddie Gray was a street-level drug dealer, had multiple run-ins with the police. He was arrested, put in the back of a paddy wagon, transport unit, and was being transported to the jail. He either thrashed around so much, was improperly restrained, whatever happened, Freddie Gray ended up dying of a broken neck. Multiple people said he was thrashing around in the back, banging his head against the walls and everything else. Imagine that. Freddie Gray's murder, or Freddie Gray's death, although tragic, Marilyn Mosby pursued it as a murder. She attacked 5 officers involved in the death of Freddie Gray, including officers who were just on scene when it happened. Marilyn Mosby basically, for all intents and purposes, declared war on Baltimore PD. How did that work out? Well, the murder rate went up to 55.4 per 100,000. There were an additional 130 people killed. Why? Law enforcement knew no one had their back. Law enforcement knew they bring charges they're not being followed through on. Law enforcement knew if you dare to arrest someone, you're running the risk of becoming Maryland's next target. So when the cops pulled back, look at the murder rate in Baltimore. It stayed sky high. It had never cleared 300 before, and it not only cleared, but sustained at over 300 per year. Those were primarily, and again, I've pulled the statistics, black and brown bodies, as they like to say. Yeah, those young men and women who died during that time frame died because the prosecutors pulled back. They pretty much gave up, for lack of a better term. And with the prosecutors pulling back and giving up, things got ugly. I'll show this another way, and it's a really interesting stat to look at. Here we have murders in the blue, pre-Marilyn Mosby, in the red, with Marilyn Mosby. Now, there's the 4 years where you had Greg Bernstein in the blue, average 215 homicides. They have a 55% increase during Marilyn Mosby. That's crazy. Every one of those, while it's just a number to us, represents a life snuffed out, and many times a young life. Make no mistake, when Marilyn was the prosecutor, the inmates were running the asylum. Now, Marilyn Mosby, she was the state's attorney for Baltimore from 2015 to January of 2023. She was there until she was defeated by Ivan Bates. Now, I want you to look at Ivan Bates and Marilyn Mosby. Granted, she's the female, or we assume. Ivan Bates is a male. Is Ivan Bates going to be that much better? Is he going to be that much different, do you think? Are things going to get better for the community in Baltimore? The people who have to live in what is amounted to a war zone where 55 people per 100,000 are dying. 58 people per 100,000 are dying a year. Murders. It's not just natural causes, it's murders. Well, look at what's happened with the change to Ivan Bates. Imagine that. Murder is way down. I can take myself off the screen here for a second, but at the simplest level, when you look at the murder rate under Ivan Bates, what do we have? Well, we'll come over here and let's take me off the screen. We have Ivan Bates goes into office in 2023, and they immediately drop from the 330s, where they had sustained for years, down to 260. Is that 70 lives saved? Yeah. And now drop it to 202 for the next year. And this year, he's on track to possibly be under 150. What is Ivan Bates doing that Marilyn Mosby is not? You could say, oh, well, he's doing something different or something better. There's got to be something else that Ivan Bates is bringing to the table that Marilyn Mosby did not bring to the table. And it is honestly what is helping turn Baltimore around. It could be honestly what saves the Charm City. Because Baltimore, I've been there before. It's not a bad place. It really, well, it's a nice place to visit. It's cool. But you know what? You don't want to go anywhere near there when random gunfire is all over the place. No one wants to visit. What is that doing to businesses? What is that doing to tourism? What is that doing to anyone? It's destroying every blasted bit of it. And unfortunately, Marilyn Mosby's policies proved that it wasn't going to work. When Ivan Bates was elected, he came in and he had some really interesting things that he was trying to do. Now, let's take a quick look at what Ivan Bates came out with, because I think it makes a lot of sense when you look at, his plans for the city of Baltimore. Because again, this is something that every city could look at. This is something that every city, blue or red, if you want to cut down violence and murder, here it is, folks. I'm writing it out for you. They talk about here, and the first 2 months have already witnessed over 50 homicides. Let's see, 50 in the first 2 months times 6. So yeah, over 300. They did that. No one-size-fits-all solution. They talk about the state's attorney has to fight crime. We come all the way down here. Prosecutors must take immediate action to address skyrocketing violence and act with urgency. Similar to doctors treating a shooting victim wheeled into shock trauma, discovering they also have cancer, prosecutors must work to not only stop the bleeding, while working to treat the cancer, the root causes. Now, he wants to cite systemic inequality and systemic racism. Okay. But when he comes through and he talks about, we cannot ignore ever-rising gun violence that haunts the city. Now, I personally don't like a lot of their anti-gun stuff, but he targets guns in a smart way for the most part. For the most part. Now, he's got some stuff I don't like. I'm not saying the man's perfect, but he came through with pillars, focusing on prosecuting illegal gun possessors, users, and traffickers. Oh my God. What was it? We started out with me talking about the fact that a lot of these shootings are not legal gun owners. They're not, good old boys. They ain't folks like me. They're 17-year-olds who are carrying it because either A, they think it's tough, B, their older brother told them to, C, they think they need to because all the other kids are and they're going to get shot if they don't have one. Yeah, when you get 17-year-olds packing heat on the street, things are going to happen. If you didn't know, these young men have some impulse control issues, some really bad impulse control issues. So focusing and prosecuting on illegal gun possessors, users, and traffickers. Wow, that can work. It comes through here. Here's where I got that stat from, that table before, straight out of his outline. And it talks here. While multiple factors contributed to skyrocketing rates of homicide, a review of 2015 to 2019 reveals a telling picture about dispositions of gun crimes under Marilyn Mosby. What is she doing when the police make an arrest? How is the case disposed of? During this time, while gun violence dramatically increased, all violence actually did, the state's attorneys entered an all-pros, which is basically dropping the charges or not prosecuting, for 3,600 illegal firearm possession charges. 3,600 times a person illegally had a firearm, either underage, previous conviction making them a prohibited possessor, domestic violence conviction, whatever the case may be. 3,600 times she declined to prosecute illegal gun charges. Wow, I wonder why Baltimore's turning into a shooting gallery. Who'd have thunk it? This, to me, shows that Ivan Bates takes it seriously. He takes the body count seriously. Marilyn Mosby ran and basically conducted herself in a way to not do anything mean to the poor kids in the inner city, even though they were meaner to each other. Let's face it, I can look at statistics on homicides and it's ugly. Put another way, the state's attorney's office failed to prosecute more than 1/3 of the gun cases charged, and to date, more than 2,300 lives have been lost and murdered on Marilyn Mosby's watch. Imagine that. If we don't prosecute the simple, low-level kids carrying, prohibited possessors, etc., you can have all the gun laws you want about what I can carry or what I can buy or where I can carry or what I have to do to get my CCW. They keep putting all this stuff in for people on my end. I'm not the one who's shooting up block parties. Go after the illegal possessors. Go after them hard, and you can generate downstream effects. Individuals found to be carrying, transporting, and using illegal guns will be removed from society. We will build a safer Baltimore by focusing, and again, ensuring convictions, holding illegal gun possessors accountable, which is not what's being done in many, many blue cities. Deterring gun crime with federal prosecution, targeting traffickers, straw purchasers. Now, when they say ghost gun manufacturers, personally, I think that's going to be a very low percentage of what he's dealing with. If you go after the illegal possessors, we'll be doing really well on that. We come down here, holding illegal gun possessors accountable. If you have an illegal gun, you go to jail. Baltimore is awash in illegal guns, including untraceable ghost guns. Well, if it's, a ghost gun, if an illegal possessor has it, go after them. If a legal possessor has it, they're not the problem. But I will take personal responsibility for ensuring those who are caught carrying illegal guns are held accountable. I will work with Baltimore PD and other law enforcement agencies to prioritize constitutional gun arrests, constitutional, solid cases, and convictions at trial. Let me be clear, there will be no leniency. Illegal gun possession will mean jail time. There are too many shootings and murders to take a different approach. We've lost too many lives. Now, I'm not saying Ivan Bates is perfect. Believe me, I'm not. They talk again, federal prosecution, dealing with things like that. I've seen firsthand sentences act as strong deterrents. Consequences tend to be certain. There's no parole. Sentences are served in other jurisdictions. Perpetrators know if they're caught, their freedom is in jeopardy. Historically, the state's attorney has detailed 2 city prosecutors to the U.S. attorney to serve as conduits. Wow. Going after federal charges? Okay. Targeting gun manufacturers, not necessarily my favorite thing. The Gun Offender Registry requires defendants convicted of firearm offenses to register with the BPD and report to the state every 6 months for a 5-year period. So if you use a gun in a crime, you're getting a whole lot of consequences. Wow. Advocate for mandated counseling and therapy for gun offenders to address trauma. Okay, I can kind of see that, especially with these youngsters. These 15 and 16-year-olds, they know no better. They grew up in a shooting gallery. And I say it because, it's sad, but it is what it is. We have, people doing stupid stuff. And the more stupid stuff that keeps happening, what happens? So, from that standpoint, a study of AP, revealed the program got a 55% reduction in gun homicides and assaults. As of 2021, Advanced Peace was operating in Richmond. Fort Worth, Texas was being looked by 12 other cities. Wow. Further, successful and efficient prosecution, work with the judiciary to create a designated gun court staffed with specialized prosecutors and judges designed to address gun possession. Cases will not languish. Consequences will be swift and certain. if you shoot someone when you're 16 and the case doesn't go to trial till you're 18 and they try you as a juvie, which means you're in jail till you're 18 and bye-bye. Yeah. As long as they can deal with this, and again, deal with tracking down what is being done illegally. Again, I'm not a fan of a lot of Maryland's gun control laws. I'm not a fan of a lot of the stupid stuff they've done. But I will also say, when I can look at statistics, FBI national statistics, telling me that over a 5-year period from 2021 through 2025, there have been 16,000 homicides committed by people between 10 and 19. Between 10 and 19. I'm pretty sure it ain't little kids doing drive-bys on their big wheels at age 12. I'm pretty sure if they broke that 10 to 19 down a lot further, it'd be about 14 to 19. Just a thought. But what's really sad is that group also accounts for 10,000 losses of lives. Why? Again, I'm not saying I support the radical gun control laws that are in Maryland, and I don't support everything Ivan Bates has done. What I do have to say is addressing the consequences or addressing the utilization of firearms in these crimes can help. And showing the 14, 15, 16, whatever set that there are going to start being real consequences. That it ain't a game no more. We have the 20-year-old set is having the 17 and 16-year-olds carry their guns for them. Why? Because the 20-year-old's got enough convictions, he can't be caught with it or he'll go back to the prison. He knows the 16 and 17-year-olds have no consequences or next to no consequences. Midnight basketball. We're going to have a violence prevention group. We're going to address root causes. What happens when that 17-year-old or that 16-year-old gets picked up and he has a gun on him? And they say, yeah, guess what, Mama? Your little baby's going for 5 years. What? Yeah, she gonna find that 20-year-old who handed her baby a gun. I promise you. Because the kid may not rat on the 20-year-old to the blue line boys. Put him in a room with Mama and see what happens. Mama's going to talk to that 14, 15, 16-year-old kid. Where'd you get a damn gun? And guess what? When she does, it's going to be a real warm room. I guarantee you that. And when she does have that discussion with him about where'd you get a gun, and he tells her, I'm going to leave that police station, she's going to go deal with it. Guess what? If there's no consequences, Mama's like, oh, well, I'll take him home and I'll yell at him. I'm going to go ground him in his room. Ivan Bates has talked about this as far as if you commit an armed robbery. If someone uses a firearm, even if they don't pull the trigger, don't shoot no one, if they just display it, whether it's even loaded or not, they're this far from committing murder. And so therefore, those kids doing armed robberies are getting more aggressively prosecuted. If you display a firearm, that's an automatic aggravating factor, and he's going after them. Ivan Bates is making Baltimore safer. And the thing is, he may be just doing, his job, but Marilyn Mosby didn't. Marilyn Mosby, I might add, ended up being voted out of office and then criminally prosecuted for some sketchy real estate fraud dealings and some other stuff. I believe Marilyn Mosby has now been convicted on federal charges. So you can wonder what she was doing while she was in office or how effective she was. All of that being said, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. How do we fix this? I'm not trying to, again, sponsor gun control. I'm not a fan. I contribute to way too many organizations who fight gun control. Speaking of organizations that fight gun control, We're going to have a big shout out to our friends over at Blackout Coffee. They're the ones who got me good and caffeinated for tonight's stream. And when you look at Blackout Coffee, not only is their coffee really good, and I love it, got Morning Reaper in here, probably use some Brutal Awakening for my other stream tonight, but when you look at, what they offer, they've got coffees from the Second Amendment Foundation. Down on the bottom right there, you've got Gun Owners of America, No Compromise, the 1776 Foundation, all these pro-2A groups. And when you buy your Blackout Coffee, it actually helps support these groups. So I've got to say it, and I've got to shout them out. If you support these groups, you can go on Blackout Coffee, use promo code Sully, and get 20% off your first order, which is cool for us because it helps support us and support the channel. But beyond that, you're supporting groups that support our fight in the 2A. You're supporting groups that go out and fight these stupid gun laws. But people who realize that things need to be fixed, that we can't go on like this. So yeah, Blackout Coffee, promo code Sully. And if you happen to be all up in the frou-frou blends or the flavored stuff, they've got piles of different flavored coffee. This is just some of them. French vanilla, caramel coconut, hazelnut cream, caramel cream, toasted coconut. Again, check out their stuff. They've even got special holiday blends out. But we got to support the coffee that supports our 2A rights. And like I said, beyond that, they still have some damn good coffee. So, got to shout out Blackout Coffee. Thank you for sponsoring us and affiliating with us, working with us, so we can sit here and talk honestly about what's really going on. We can't solve all the world's problems, and I'm not going to solve all the problems of these neighborhoods. But you know what? On the other side of that coin, we have to do what we can to try to keep our rights intact, to keep our safety intact, to protect our family. But also, from the other side of that coin, we have to be able to deal with crime, deal with this, and deal with these senseless murders. That's all I've got for tonight, folks. I appreciate you dropping by. A short stream tonight. I'll be back probably later in the week with something longer. Until then, be smart, be safe. Bye.